to order. And I think my first official duty as chair is to call the roll call for this meeting, right?
Yeah, I'll do the roll call.
Okay.
Commissioner Conroy.
Here.
Commissioner Jess. I think he's on.
Yes.
Thank you.
He was on a minute ago.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do too.
Hi.
Commissioner Marin.
Here.
Commissioner Samples.
Here.
Commissioner Solomon.
Here.
Chairman Woodham.
Here.
And absent is Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, next order, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. And you can stand or sit for this. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which
stands
one nation
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all.
Okay, next item is the order of agenda, to approve the order of agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Yes.
There's a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do I have to do a roll call on this, or do we just do it by acclamation? I don't know.
Yeah, Commissioner Johnson brought that up at our last meeting. Do we have to do a roll call vote after everything, or
I think on
were you
something
able to
like
find
this.
out?
I think on something like this, we can just do it by acclamation. On a motion, we're voting on something that we're actually discussing, then we'll do a roll call. But otherwise, unless any opposed, okay, approved by.
Fine with me.
Blue folder items. Jennifer, we received some blue folder items, which were the audits. Do you want to say anything about those at this point?
They will be discussed in detail during when Brian Gruber talks. If it's okay, unless anyone has anything that they wanted to discuss. It's just, we were just a little bit late in getting that attachment in.
Okay. That's fine.
Thank you.
The consent calendar.
We need a motion to omit the blue folder items.
Okay. Good point. Do you hear a motion to admit the blue folder?
So moved.
Blue folder items.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next is the consent calendar. There are two items on the consent calendar. Business items, except those formally noticed for public hearing or discussion, are assigned to the consent. Commission members may request that any consent calendar item be removed, discussed, and acted upon separately. Items removed from the consent calendar will be taken up under the excluded consent calendar section below. Those items remaining will be approved in one motion following oral communication. Does anyone want to adjust the consent calendar, remove an item, change the order of discussion?
Oh.
If not, then item F1, approval of affidavit of posting for the regular Budget and Finance Commission meeting. I think we should take those probably separately, because there might be comments on the minutes. And as a matter of fact, I have one comment on the minutes. Item F1, and we have a motion to approve that.
Well, if it's not pulled, then we have to accept the consent calendar as it is. Are you suggesting that we pull F1?
No, we can. Okay, let's do this. Any comments on F1 or F2? And then we can discuss accepting. I have a comment on the minutes for the September 23rd meeting. At the end of that, there's a passage I don't understand. On page 12 of our agenda, or page 5 of the minutes, the last comment is adjournment of Budget and Finance Commission. And it says, there being no further business to come before the commission, the motion was made to adjourn the meeting to a special meeting to be held at 6:30 p.m. on September 16th. I don't understand. This was a September 23rd meeting, and the motion is, as written here, is to adjourn the meeting to a special meeting some week ahead of that time. Am I misreading that, or I don't understand why it says that?
It's probably, most likely it's a typo or oversight on the person doing the minutes. Probably didn't change the date for the next meeting.
Yeah, that's what I would expect it to be, a special, to adjourn it to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Yeah, so it's probably just an error on the minutes.
And it's not just a date. It references a special meeting to be held prior to that meeting. So I think, what do we do in the case of Jennifer? They just make the correction to the minutes?
Yeah, so Doug, do we just reach out to the person? So we are kind of farming this out to a person on this, and this is a little kind of new process.
My experience, if you don't mind,
yes,
this is your chance to you correct it as the board, and if everybody approves it, you move on, and then you approve the minutes as amended.
Amended. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
So we'll delete special meeting and then update the date.
Yeah, just to the next regularly scheduled meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, with that correction then, item F1 and F2, any further comments? If not, a motion to approve both of those?
Move to approve the consent calendar with the corrections as noted.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Excluded consent calendar items. Public participation on non-agenda items. This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on a subject that does not appear on this agenda for action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under this section. Do we have any public participation requests?
I don't see anything. Doug, do you see? I don't see e-comments or any other public participants.
No e-comments.
Okay, good. Then items continued from previous agendas. I don't think there are any. Items for discussion prior to action. So the new business section, beginning with section J. And first is J1. Jennifer, do you have any comments before we start this?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, Steve, the city treasurer's first quarter report. Would you please proceed?
Somebody's in the spirit. You're muted, Steve.
Okay. Gosh, my image was moving around the screen. I was chasing my unmute button.
You didn't have that hat on a minute ago. You found the hat after we talked, right?
Yes, I did. I went and got it because Eugene looked pretty festive, and I thought it was a good idea. So
yeah, well, good deal.
Okay, so we're going to present on 3 particular items today. The treasurer's report. I know this is J1 right now, but we'll also be talking about the policy, another policy review, and you do have the audit review. So there's kind of a lot of stuff to go through. So we have kind of a abbreviated quarterly report, and I know VJ, we've not met before, right?
No, we haven't.
Okay, is this your first meeting, or is it your first?
Yes. No,
Oh,
first
okay.
meeting. First meeting.
Wow. All right. Well, they haven't initiated you yet then.
Well, we went through the initiation process, I think a month ago.
No, No, this is the one where
you haven't had the
colleagues
initiation
initiate.
process
Yeah.
yet.
Be careful. Watch out. Okay. Well, anyway, nice to meet you.
Nice meeting.
And let's get started. So I'm here and Nilesh is here. And then we do have Rick from FHN who can provide additional color commentary. Hi, Rick.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, let's get started here.
Okay, can everyone see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So Nilesh Mehta, Chief Deputy Treasurer, along with Steve Deals and Rick Phillips. Within your packet, you'll see the full admin report along with the presentation and the first quarter report from FHN. Within this PowerPoint presentation, we're going to do a little bit of abbreviated version. We're going to go over the policy compliance, the fiscal impact, and the trading activity for the quarter.
And Nilesh, if I might add, so VJ,
Yeah.
on every report, we give you the investment guidelines to review, and we do that for review for the public too, if they happen to be watching. Normally we go through that. It's in your report, but we'll certainly get you next time. And the rest of your colleagues know that we kind of go through it ad nauseum. So, but we'll get to those details next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
So here's a synopsis of the parameters of our policy compliance. And as you can see on the right-hand column, we were in compliance with the policy. The fiscal impact to the city. Interest earned year to date, $497,915. The general fund contribution rate is 49%. So approximately $243,978 was contributed to the general fund through the investment activity. For the fiscal year, we budgeted approximately $750,000 to be contributed to the general fund. So given the circumstances, we should be able to meet or exceed that amount.
Yeah, actually, it looks like we would be exceeding that if present trends continue or improve. So we might have estimated low, but anyway.
And then here's the synopsis of our trading activity for the quarter. As you can see, in the month of September, there were 2 purchases and 2 redemptions. Half of those was a security swap, which we're going to go over in detail in the following slide. The background on our detailed trading activity is the mayor and city council expressed their desire to divest from the Philip Morris security and to refrain from future tobacco-related transactions. The city treasurer's office honored the mayor and city council's direction, and the city treasurer's office favorably swapped the Philip Morris bond at a premium for a New York Life bond. This trade extended the duration of the portfolio slightly and captured the capital gains of the Philip Morris bond. Within the investment policy guideline, key note is it is the express intention of our investment policy to hold all investments to maturity to ensure the return of all invested principal dollars. Securities shall generally be held until maturity with the following exceptions. A security with declining credit may be sold early to minimize loss of principal. A security swap may be executed if it will increase the quality, yield, or target duration in the portfolio, and the liquidity needs of the city require that the security be sold. For reference, it is within Section 5 of the policy statement on page 4. Furthermore, it was updated that for security swaps, the city may take advantage of security swap opportunities to improve the overall portfolio yield. A swap which improves the pool yield may be selected even if the transactions result in an accounting loss. Documentation for the swaps will be included in the city's permanent investment file documents.
Okay, Nilesh, let me give some context here.
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to be discussing the policy tonight. What's really interesting about this particular trade is Prior to 2020, we did not explicitly say that we could do these swaps. So this was a suggestion that came from our investment advisors to liberalize the policy a little bit, so it would allow us the opportunities to rebalance a portfolio periodically. Well, because we have that in there, and because the city council made that request, we were able to conduct this particular trade, which is a swap. We sold one and bought one. Now, because it's interesting, because the city council was pretty liberal with their concern. They said, we don't want to invest in tobacco. It looks bad, sounds bad. But we had this actually excellent investment. So Philip Morris was doing extremely well. But we understood what they wanted to say, and because we had this ability in the portfolio to do this, we could. So we offered to do it, and ultimately we did. But the point I'm getting at is, had we not had this in the portfolio, in the policy, we would have had to hold the issue to maturity. And then had that been the case, then the city council said, just please don't buy any more tobacco stock. So we would have gone that route. Had they been less liberal and more insistent and demanded that we liquidate that, and this feature were not in the policy, I would have had to ask them to please vote on that and document that you're voting for me to take action that's not in the policy. But it didn't go that way. But had they done that, it would have been fine, and then we could have done the swap. So just letting you know, when we update these policies, down the line, things can happen, and this is an opportunity that we could do based on an updated policy from 2020. Okay.
And
so anatomy of the trade. And then, so Rick, how's your audio? You good? You want to go over this one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we had originally purchased Philip Morris around, I think, a 2.4% yield a few years ago. And of course, as Steve explained with the mayor and city council's direction, we're actually able to sell that. You see in the middle right at a yield to maturity about 0.188. And so, as you know, bond prices and yields are inversely related. And so we had a nice gain when we were able to sell this Philip Morris bond. Next one. And let's see. Yeah, that's just detailing a little bit more what we were showing just on the previous page, approved by Steve and sent to the custodian. And here's the Bloomberg ticket that we received from our broker that had the best bid on this bond. Here's the detail. So you can see in the middle right, the bond ratings in the category of A and above with the city policy, and just the details of this bond when it was originally issued back in 2017. Next. We use various ways to trade securities. We'll sometimes go out on the telephone, sometimes just on our Bloomberg system. We also have a system that this is called market access, that we trade corporate bonds on more frequently. And so we put this 2 million Philip Morris bond out to bid, and electronically it works, it goes out to the dealer network, and you see that the highest bid with the broker dealer on the left-hand side called Stifel Nicholas. Next.
Can you point out, I wish you had a pointer. Can you point out the competing bids? I'm kind of lost on the screen.
So down in the bottom, you see the dealer STFL. That's the winning one at the top. Then most everybody was trading the size. We wanted to sell the full 2 million piece, but a dealer came back, MTKX, with only wanting 221,000. So of course we don't want to accept that. But the lowest yield is the highest price. And so you see the yield column 0.816, and then the estimated price that would correspond to is 101.79.
Sorry, 186, right? The yield?
0.186, yes, was the yield. When we originally purchased the yield, I think about 2.4% a few years ago. So that's what generated the big gain. Selling a bond at a much lower yield has a lot higher price. And so you just see the competitive nature of the prices from a 101.79 all the way down to the bottom of 101.658. Philip Morris is a pretty widely traded company in the fixed income area. So the bond yield, the prices and yields are pretty tight. We like to see that in markets when we're trying to sell, and certainly this is a case. Next.
Okay, and so in summary there, you had 10 offers.
We call them bids when we're selling, but yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks.
And
Rick,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you talk a little bit about how the spreads work, the commission rates for these trades and the yields that we're getting? So what commissions paid and how that appears on the screens?
So there, in fixed income, there actually are no commissions. Just it's different than stocks. So bonds trade, stocks trade on an exchange. And so there's lots of going on that way with bids and offers there. And you actually pay a commission. But in the bond market, you don't pay a commission. It's the bid and the offer price. So the offer is where we'd buy, the bid's where we'd sell. So the dealer, Stifel, they're going to think that they can buy this bond at 0.186 yield and probably sell it to someone at a lower yield, higher price, so like 0.15. So they take the risk different than the stock market. They're going to take the risk of buying this bond and then hoping to sell that at a higher price, lower yield, but no commission in the institutional fixed income area.
So the spread doesn't represent commission or similar charge?
So there, I'm not sure when you say spread on here. So,
well, if you go back a couple of slides, you've got an issue spread, you've got a
yes, that's a good question. Go back one.
You just went right through it there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that doesn't have a spread. What that means, actually, Neil, let's go ahead a couple slides. Go forward a couple slides, go one more, no, I think you're going the wrong way. Yeah, you want to go further in. Oh, sorry. Let me just show you. Let me go back. Let's see if this shows on the Bloomberg screen. No, I wish I had the command. Find that Bloomberg screen again, right there. Okay, so on the middle left, you see spreads. The G spread is to treasuries, and that's how almost all the bonds trade, is what spread or yield differential to a maturity matching treasury. So we were selling this at 13 basis points or 0.132% above a treasury. So the treasury at that time would have been about, 5 basis points. And yields were really low a few months ago when we sold this. They're still pretty low in this area. So that's the spread. It's the spread off of a treasury when we trade.
So that's the baseline is the treasury yield versus whatever the security yield is of the instrument that we're trading.
Yeah, Eugene, the treasury market is the mothership of all bonds in the United States for sure, and really globally. So right. You're right. Yep.
Okay, when I'm looking through these documents and the trading sheets and looking at where costs may arise back to the city or as part of the transaction. My understanding had always been on transactions that the spread was represented a commission we might be paying, but I can see that based on your description, that's incorrect.
Well, I mean, to be fair to your thought process, you're understanding it well. It's just a slight difference of nuance in the bond market versus the stock market. There's still a bid offer spread in the stock market. If you look on your TD Ameritrade screen, you'll see that you could sell it at this lower price and buy it at the higher price. That's the bid offer. And so dealers are taking that risk there, but then you also get charged a commission on stocks, where bonds is just purely the bid offer spread.
Okay.
Yep.
And is that for strictly for a specific type of bond? Is that a universal treatment of bonds, or are there other securities that we trade where there might be a commission? There are no securities where we traded with a commission. All of our fixed income instruments do have bid offer spreads, but none have commissions in the institutional space that we manage for the city. Are there other charges associated with FTN executing that trade that are charged to the city?
We only charge a flat fee for the city. So if the portfolio goes up or down in value, there's no change. If we trade one bond or 50 bonds in a month, there's no difference in the price. It's just a flat fee that we charge the city.
Okay, so that agreement remains in place.
Yes.
Steve has told us about that before. Okay, thank you.
You bet. All right, now just keep going down. Let's just see if there's anything else that we haven't covered here. Okay, here's the New York Life that we bought with about around a year later. So we extended the duration just slightly, went up in credit quality. This is a AA+ and AA you see on the middle left of the screen. We picked up a yield of about 10 basis points. Over on the right-hand side, you see yield to maturity of 0.284. And so just extending a little and getting a little more yield versus what we sold to Philip Morris. Next one. And there's just more details.
Higher quality and higher yield.
Yes, yeah. And to be fair, once you usually go out further on the yield curve, you are going to pick up a little more yield, even though you go up in quality. And then here's just the Bloomberg ticket that we bought this from Toronto Dominion, one of the many brokers we used. They had the best price and yield on this security. And this is just details about that New York Life. You can see the Moody's rating on the side, middle right. Down at the bottom, you can see it was issued, the pricing date and the issue date in October of last year. And so we bought this with about 2 years to go when we purchased this bond a few months ago. Next. Here, we didn't get quite, when you sell bonds, many dealers will give you bids, but when you're getting an offer from bonds, that doesn't mean bonds are different than stocks, because stocks are just millions of shares outstanding, but there's only one issue of this New York Life, and not everybody owns 2 million, at least 2 million that we were looking to purchase. And so you can see we only had 5 dealers that gave us an offer on the price and yield there. But it was, again, still very competitive at the estimated yield of 0.21 all the way up to 0.28. And so still a very tight market that we like with these high quality bonds. This basically shows that we sold the Philip Morris. I think it was approximately a $36,000 gain on the left-hand side. It's kind of hard to read. And then it just shows New York Life. We'll capture that all the way down to when the New York Life matures about a year later after the Philip Morris. Won't get into the details, but it enhanced the value of the portfolio overall and the income for the city. And this is just the details of that swap page. I'm not going to get into that. That picture was worth enough words. And that's it. And just to give a little added detail, of course, the city council gave us some direction and instruction to do that. We went through all the numbers with Steve and Neil to see if that was really what we wanted to do versus just holding it to maturity. Because interest rates had come down, it was very favorable for the city to do that. If interest rates had gone up, that would have been a different story. We possibly would have had to take a loss on the security. So city council maybe would have said, let's just hold that bond and then not buy any other tobacco related bonds. So, but we were fortunate interest rates were favorable for us to do a good transaction.
Steve, question. Has city council indicated that they want to move further into this SRI issue and look at other securities or establish a policy on that? Or was this just a one-off transaction?
Yeah, so we touched on that. Wait, is my audio on? Now I'm not seeing my image anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. We did touch on that, and we just left it that they could do it ad hoc. You know, I thought this was a really good discussion because they're not always engaged, you know, with all the things they're dealing with. So we had a nice discussion about the trade and what we could do with it, and this is what we did. I would not recommend going down that road. So, because remember, we've got our priorities are safety, liquidity, and yield. And if you want to add SRI in there, which is socially responsible investing, you'd be safety, liquidity, yield, and somewhere in that, you've got to put socially responsible investing. So I mean, we're doing that with tobacco on a one-off basis, right? So if we come across a purchase that might be the best deal of the day and it's tobacco, well, we're not going to buy it. But
yeah, I understand. I was just curious as to, I did not see that when it came up with the city council, and just wondering if they had gone further into that area. If it
no, we didn't. When we touched on it, I was telling them we could do this on an ad hoc basis, even in the future going forward. But I would not consider this is a very, it's a very young trend. It's very new in the game, and it's really not right. I don't think it's ready for prime time. I have an article I've saved from the Wall Street Journal that debates whether it's profitable and if it's good for investors and if it's good for the environment. And they concluded it's good for investors and has no discernible impact on the environment. So, yeah, I don't think they're quite ready yet.
Okay.
Jerry asked my question if they gave us direction, or I should say us, meaning the city is us, direction going forward on that, Steve. So thanks for answering that. I wanted to highlight something that Rick mentioned and Steve, you mentioned, and Alesh as well. Even though we're deeming something early, there was a capital gain and it was able to be extended into the maturity of the instrument that we bought, which was a real nice realization there. So that was really nice to hear.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and so that's it. If there's any more questions, I know, hey, Jason, you'd asked some questions about commissions in the past and all that, but I think Rick covered that. But if you've got questions when Rick's here, I really encourage you to ask because he's the pro.
Thanks. If you could just refresh my memory on that. So we pay a flat fee. Is that a flat dollar fee or a flat percentage of investment is our fee?
On the trade?
No. We pay a flat fee whether we trade 50 times a month or once a month. Is what he said.
To Rick's firm?
Yeah. So
yes.
My question is it a flat dollar amount that we pay,
yes.
Or is it okay?
It's not per trade, no.
No, okay. No, I'm just saying the flat amount. Is it a flat percentage of assets under
no
management?
It's a flat fee.
Okay.
A fixed fee.
Got it.
And Jason, I'll just add my 2 cents. It's very economical as compared to our peers. The city was one of our first clients in California, and we kept that fee very low. Just we're appreciative and honored to work. But if you did an RFP, high probability your fee would go up substantially. So
and I'm sure we all appreciate that, Rick. Thank you.
It's our honor. You bet.
Steve, I thought that was that amended or changed recently? I seem to remember that there was some sort of an alteration in that component on that monthly charge, but it sounds like no, it's still the flat fee. There's been no change in the last 6 months.
No, with the new budget, we have a slightly higher rate, but was minimal, and but it's still the same procedure.
Maybe that's what I'm remembering. You meaning the flat fee is slightly higher than it used
right
to be?
Yeah, it was about what?
Slightly higher rate?
Steve, I think it was about 3 years ago. We went from 18,000 a year to 24,000 a year, if I'm remembering. So it was a few years ago, though. So
okay, so that's the change that I'm remembering. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve. To you.
Okay, so that's the quarterly report, and we should have had at the end of the report there the request for action, which is basically a receive and file.
Hey, Steve, one question or one comment. You include an executive summary in this report before the manager's report and before your the third item that you cover. I had one suggestion on that. The executive summary is good. It includes items on return, on asset size, and so forth. but it doesn't include the compliance report. I would think the compliance report should be included in your executive summary. That's something that we could.
Oh, just a statement of whether, okay, if we were in compliance with the policy.
Yeah, that one pager that shows your compliance. If you include that in the executive summary, then I think the executive summary becomes a very quick and concise way of looking at this. You included in your report, which is 2 or 3 pages later in the agenda, but I'm suggesting just also including it in the executive summary.
Okay, thank you.
So, do we need a motion now to?
I think BJ had a question, Jerry.
Yeah, I had one question.
Jerry, I think.
Okay, yeah,
BJ
go
had a
ahead.
question.
Yeah, does this company initiate any trades on its own if it sees an opportunity to maximize the income for the city, or do we have to tell the company to make the trade, as we did with the Philip Morris?
Yeah, so kind of both. So they're out there working, trading all the time, if not for us, for their other clients. If they come across a good deal, they'll ask us, they'll recommend it, but they can't make any trades without our approval.
But do they do take the initiative to make some recommendations if they see an opportunity?
Yes, and when we get flush with cash during certain times of the year, you'll see, we'll go over the cash flow in more depth in another report. And you'll see that certain times of year we have more cash than others, and that's the time when we'll make purchases. And then they're looking at our cash flow. They have access to our bank statements, and they take a look at the amounts that we have either in our general fund or usually in the LAIF account.
And BJ, if I can add, this is Rick here. So, and I know this is your first time with us. We manage and consult on about 50 billion for states and local governments. City of Los Angeles is a client, City of Whittier in the county, Anaheim. So we understand that normal cash flow pattern that cities have and counties have. And that's what Steve is saying. So we're out there. Most of our clients we manage on a discretionary basis, where we actually pull the trigger on the trades and don't even check with the city or the county. Our arrangement with the city of Redondo Beach is it's a non-discretionary. So we're out there looking at all the environment, and then we send an email to Steve and Nilesh and say, we're seeing this. We know you have some cash or maturity coming up. We like these securities. What do you think? And then we get the go-ahead. We can't execute a trade without the go-ahead from the city.
Okay, so you do look at the cash flow and also the availability of cash on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's a very rhyming pattern. And so we know it very well. Property taxes in, other expenses out, you bet.
What's your opinion on the I bonds, which right now are yielding a pretty high return?
So the savings bonds, the I bonds that individuals can buy, they're great for individuals. We can't buy those as an institutional investor. I wish we could, but they limit that to, I think, like 50,000 or 100,000. And obviously that just wouldn't make a dent in the city's portfolio, nor do they allow us to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, that's the quarterly report. Now, do we, I guess we have to pass a motion to recommend this or to accept this report, correct? I think that's the approach. Do I have a motion to accept?
Make a motion to receive and file the city treasurer's quarterly report, J1.
Do we have to ask for any public opinion or comment prior?
No,
Yeah, usually you'll ask at the end if there's any public comment. And there are no e-comments.
Okay. Got a motion to accept. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
And I guess this is something we should do a roll vote. Commissioner Jest?
We're doing a roll call vote, so you vote.
Okay, Commissioner Just, yes or no?
Yes or no?
We'll come back to him. Commissioner Conroy,
Aye.
Commissioner Marin, Commissioner Samples,
Aye.
Commissioner Solomon,
Aye.
Commissioner Jess,
Yes. Aye.
and Commissioner Woodham votes yes as well. Okay. Second item from still Steve on the agenda is the investment policy statement.
Yes. So second item, we'll be reviewing the statement of investment policy as amended. Stephen Deals, Neela Mehta, and Rick Phillips. Just a little introduction.
Well, here, let me give you an introduction instead of reading this. Okay, so the Budget and Finance Commission, according to our city charter, reviews the investment policy annually. We did this just a few months ago, and that was the prior one, and we're already back to you with the new one for this year. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, but you guys review this annually, and for VJ's benefit, you'll see this every year.
Thank you.
And that's basically what I said, as adoption by the City Council as well as review by the Budget and Finance Commission. Next. So these are the changes that were made. Mostly, we have them all listed here. So mostly they are formatting changes. And then we added some language, and there's one part where we added a fair amount of language, and we'll go into that in more detail. But as you can see, we moved things around in the policy. We numbered them from Roman numerals to Arabic.
That was a good move. That was a good move, by the way.
Okay, good. Glad you like that. And here's one where we added some additional language. It's really, here it's perfunctory. It's what I said, that it gets reviewed by the City Council and the Budget Finance Commission. The investment procedures manual. Yes. Okay. So that we've had in the policy forever, and you do review that. It is in your Exhibit C, but there have been no changes this time. So you guys saw this just 3 months ago too. Again, more formatting changes. Okay, and this, this is where we've got more verbiage. And this came at the recommendation of the city attorney, but it codifies that our investment advisor, whoever that may be, it's not spelling out FHN, but whoever we may be using, say we were using more than one or whatever, but they shall execute trades on behalf of the city by obtaining at least 3 bids or offers. So it codifies, that's a requirement. There is, however, trading that occurs where you can't get 3 bids. So for example, if it's a new issue and it's only offered by one person, then we can't get 3 different offers or bids. Okay, in that event, the investment advisor shall document the bids and offers received and provide yield information to the city treasurer for comparable securities. All right, and that was that. So more formatting changes. We have to do a quarterly review. Some instruments might fall out of compliance, so we have to take action. That's what number 23 says. Ongoing training and education, we codified that. We haven't done really virtually any during COVID, but we do go to conferences, and there's some additional learning that's very good to do. As it says here, to assure the highest possible professional standards. 25 is just more formatting changes, and that's it. So that's it. And then I think for VJ's benefit, You know what? If you want, you can, any one of you can call me anytime to go over any of these things. So VJ, if you want to call me or meet over coffee or something, we can go through the whole policy at some point, but these are the changes we made.
Thank you.
Does city council, does the city council wait for our approval before they review this, or have they already looked at it?
Oh, they've already, it's approved. So our obligation is to have you review it. So it's been approved by them already.
Okay.
But if you have suggestions for changes, we'll make note of it. And then when we do this again, we'll add those to the list.
Yeah, I don't have a suggestion for change, but I do have one suggestion. There are a couple of things of all the tons of paper we get as a commission to review. We get a hard copy of the budget. I think we should get a hard copy of the investment policy statement. This should be kept by each of us close to the same area as the budget, because from a fiduciary standpoint, and we're advisory, but still, I think each of us should have a hard copy of this. So
okay, well, and I agree. So, but you should. So when we give you this, we're giving you the actual policy. So it should be in your report. If it's not, that's an oversight on our part. So Nilesh, is the policy in their admin report?
It is in their admin report, yes.
Yeah, so you've got it. And this is the latest one. So you want to toss the old one, and this is the new one. So going forward until we bring you the next new one, this is it.
okay. Well, my suggestion was that the city send a hard copy of this rather than depending on folks to print it as we do with the budget. But that's just my thought.
Okay, well, so are you not getting hard copies of these? You're just doing electronic versions right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll give you a hard copy. I'll
Okay.
send one to you. Yeah. Anybody else?
I think
Yeah.
send it to all 7 commissioners. This is something that we should be getting.
Okay. Absolutely.
Any questions from commissioners on the IPS?
No.
I have 2 quick questions, please, Steve. One is when you were talking about the other broker dealers and the offers, that's reflected in the trade ticket where we see all the different bids and offers all the bids that came in. Am I understanding that correctly?
When we showed you the actual ticket, yes, we pointed out exactly where it shows up, where you've got competing bids and offers.
Right. In conformity with
specifically on that.
Yeah, okay, so in conformity with the policy that you just went through. The second question being that we had roughly 27 trades in the report that was presented. If a member of the public wanted to, for transparency purposes, see those trade tickets, see the transactions, see the bids and those sorts of things, does it appear somewhere on our website? Do they contact the city treasurer's office? Do they go to the clerk? Is it a public records request? How would a member of the public view something like that, like we got to see tonight?
They could ask me. I would probably defer to the city attorney's office and to FHN to find out what materials I can put out there without giving out any, inappropriate information. But I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't do it, but we don't do it as a matter of regular practice. So if somebody asks, we can do it.
If a member of the public wanted to see that, they put in a request.
Yeah.
And then it would get filtered through FHN and the city attorney. All right.
Eugene, I would just add that it might be good for that information to be available for more transparency, but as a matter of course, whenever a transaction is placed, in the market, the list of bond market makers are going to be there, and they're always going to be an order from the trader offering the most to the trader offering the least. And if you're selling a bond, you're always going to automatically take the best price as long as they can fill your order. It kind of happens almost automatically. You know what I mean? So there isn't really any opportunity to take a price other than the best price currently available.
Oh, I understand. It's an auction. Yeah, and I get that. The idea being that as a city, one of the things that we focus on and talk a lot about is transparency. So that's really what I wanted to clarify, the two things. That one, the trade ticket that we look tonight demonstrates that level of compliance, showing the different bids there as required by our investment policy. And then two, if somebody was curious about that, how they would come to find out about it. If I wasn't sitting on the Budget and Finance Commission and seeing this presentation and seeing that ticket, it's the first time we've ever seen one of those tickets, and this will be now my 5th year. And I'm really grateful that that you were talking about it, and grateful that Treasurer Deals brought it to us. So I think it's important to have those things out there and let the public know where they can see them if they wanted to. That was the point that I was really more making, rather than that there was some other issue with the process or how it actually worked.
And this is Rick. If I could just add some additional clarity to this, state code does not require that the city post transaction information. It actually doesn't require that the report, if the city council chooses to do a report, then there's certain things that are put in there on a quarterly basis. The only thing in state code that's required is a monthly listing of transactions. And that's given, we provide that in our monthly report to the treasurer, and that's presented to the city council. But Eugene, like you mentioned, this is all documented from when we started with you guys, because we send those trade tickets over that Steve has to sign with that backup. It's incredibly rare. In fact, I haven't seen, and we look at a lot of different entities in the state as well as in the country with my role. We just don't see the detail of trade tickets and that posted on an entity's website, even though it is public information, just to give you an added clarity there.
Okay, thank you, Rick. That's very helpful.
Yeah, I would like to add too that, so in my years as the treasurer, I've never been asked by a member of the public for that information. However, I have been asked by you as a body, and that's why this is brought before you. So we brought it to you based on your request. And then I don't want Rick's statement to imply that he only gives you what is required by law. The Rick's quarterly reports go way above and beyond, what is required, and the amount of information and context and clarity they provide versus what we had before is quite a bit better. And in terms of improving transparency, which is Eugene's point, the transparency has been enhanced since we've been working with FHN.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay, good. Further comments from the commissioners? Any thoughts, any questions for anyone else? If not, do I hear a motion to accept the treasurer's report on the investment policy statement?
A second.
Assuming we have nothing from the public, I'll so move.
Okay, good question. Any comments from the public on this?
No, nothing from the public.
And no
Okay.
comments.
Okay, good. Then we have a motion and a second. Do a roll call vote. Commissioner Conroy?
Aye.
Commissioner Jest?
Yeah, aye.
Commissioner Marin?
Aye.
Commissioner Samples?
Aye.
Commissioner Solomon?
Aye.
And Chairman votes aye as well. Okay, moving on to item J3, discussion and possible action regarding annual financial reports. Finance Director, Jennifer.
Hi there. So we have our formerly known as CAFR, now known as ACFR, Annual Financial Comprehensive Report.
How much did they pay to have that? How much did they pay to get the name changed?
I don't know. I don't know. And then we have Brian Gruber, who works for our auditing firm, LSL, here to discuss. Thank you.
Perfect.
Just second time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Again, my name is Brian Gruber with the independent audit firm for the city. Provided to you this evening is the completed draft audit and related reports. And I'm going to spend a minute to talk about the audit and the results that are provided to you. So we've completed an audit for the city's financial statements. In addition to, there are a few separate audits on the city's inmate trust fund, a separate report on the city's enterprise funds, and a separate report on the city's internal service funds. In addition to those are a few communication letters that we provide. The purpose of a financial statement audit is the expression of an opinion on those financial statements, that those financial statements are properly presented in all material respects and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We plan and perform our audit in accordance with professional standards to be able to render an opinion on those financial statements, and included in the city financial statements and related separate financial statements are the independent auditors report. The independent auditors report is our expression of an opinion, and we express what's referred to as an unmodified opinion, which is what you would seek to achieve in a financial statement audit. Basically, what it means is that those statements have been audited and can be relied upon by the readers of the financial statements, that they're properly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. In addition to our independent auditors report, we have a couple communication letters. The first is our report on internal control and compliance. Now, in accordance with governmental auditing standards, we're required to communicate if we identify deficiencies in internal control or instances of non-compliance with laws, grants, contracts, and such. We found no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control, and there were no instances of non-compliance noted. Our final piece of communication is our auditor communication letter. The intention there is to describe the overview of the audit and results. Also an opportunity for us to disclose any other findings or issues identified during the audit. If we were to have any difficulties encountered, we would disclose it here. There were none. If we were to have any corrections to the financial statements or things that were left unadjusted, we would disclose those. No misstatements were found. If we had any disagreements with the city staff regarding accounting procedure, accounting reporting, none were noted. There were a few changes to the financial statements this year. The first one being the renaming of the financial statements in accordance with new GASB guidance. It's referred to now as the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. And also there was a new requirement that changed the reporting of the city's fiduciary activities. And there was some minor classification changes in addition to some titles changing in name. Notable for future is that the city will be required to implement next fiscal year a new lease accounting standards, which will have an impact for the city, in which it will be required to report more information and include that on the balance sheet and income statement for the city. With that, that's my summary of our communication and the results of our audit. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
To clarify, no suggestions for no complaints, no suggestions for change in the way you receive data. Everything was as it should be.
Everything was as it should be. Yes.
Okay.
We have a couple hands up.
Okay. Jason.
Yeah. Chair Woodham, that was my first question. I was just going to say, throughout all the different accounting, of which there was admittedly quite a bit, you guys didn't have one correcting entry or reclass or anything, and you said no.
There were material. Nothing of materiality to report. The city takes time to kind of close out its books and records. We go through that, and there was nothing of any significance to report to you. And to give you a little bit of clarification, in this formalized auditor communication, we're required to have, there's certain thresholds for communication to the city's governing body. But it's not uncommon and regular that we might provide suggestions or feedback along the way, to maybe improve controls, to maybe identify certain things here and there that wouldn't rise to this level of significance. So.
All right, thank you. And then if you don't want, as far as you said, coming up, there'll be more disclosure of information as it relates to leases on the income statement and the balance sheet. And is that a new GASB requirement? So this is not something the city or you are doing on your own, but it's a new requirement.
Correct, a new requirement. It actually affects both governmental agencies and non-governments, commercial businesses, and complying with both FASB and GASB have their own reporting standards related to leases. And the objective is further transparency, disclosure of information, and indicating kind of the financial commitments associated with some of these leases that are entered into, and reporting them financially on the financial statements.
Great. And I won't ask you to go in any additional detail as to what those additional disclosures or explanations will be now, because we don't have actuals to look at. But I look forward to seeing how they're different in the future, in our future reviews. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Solomon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Woodham. Either Jennifer or Brian, with the lease revenue bonds we issued to work on resolving our pension obligations.
Yep.
Is there a recharacterization of within, let's say, for example, the ISF, it has the net pension liability figure. Is that a characterization of what the true net cost could be going forward for that charge in the ISF fund? Or I get it'll, in a very awkward way, I'm asking, in next year's audit, with this money being paid out to resolve our pension obligation and that money now coming to pay off the bond, how does that change our outlook or our audits going forward?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and you're correct. Subsequent to the end of the year, so after this June 30, 2021 reporting period, the city issued bonds to be applied towards the city's pension responsibilities. And the ultimate characterization in the financial statements will be a reclassification of the liability ultimately, to whereas the city had reported a net pension liability as a line item, as a liability in the financial statements, it would be newly classified as revenue bonds, bonded debt, right? And so there would be a change in that. Now the city will continue to, receive actuarial studies from year to year, calculating the city's net pension liability and responsibilities. You'll see a significant reduction because of this additional monies that were taken from the bonds and sent to CalPERS. But there will be, based on market performance and different actuarial determinations, there will be a net pension liability, or it could be a net pension asset as well, based on some of these fluctuations. But the bulk of the responsibilities will now be reported as the net as a bond and the debt rather than the liability for the pensions. Now there is a timing delay because of some information that will be provided from CalPERS. So you will see a little bit of timing changes to ultimately get there. It might take a couple of years because of the delay and when we get actuarial reports from CalPERS, but that's the long-term effect of it.
Thank you. Jennifer, what quarter do you think that we would begin seeing, or have we already begun seeing that transition? Have we already made a expenditure to CalPERS towards that liability? Or has that been set up for a future quarter?
I believe we're paying in January, and we already made one payment, I think, in September.
Okay. Okay, thank you. The second question I have, please, is for Jennifer. We hired a firm to visit our policies and procedures with regard to some of our funds. So I'm wondering how that interfaces with what LSL does. Doing the numbers, maybe not at all, but I'm just curious. It was a couple of meetings ago, we had a gentleman in, I can't remember.
You mean Moss Adams? The Moss Adams?
It wasn't Moss Adams, it was a different firm. Came and made a presentation to us. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering it right now. So I'll ask about it offline then. I'll pull the information and see if that interfaces with LSL. Okay, thank you for the presentation.
So typically, just to provide a little bit of an overview, our audit is designed to express an opinion on the year-end numbers and the results and the reporting into the financial statements. And so the city has worked with Moss Adams and to provide some additional oversight and recommendations on internal controls and policies and procedures. And the objective of what they're trying to do is different from that of a financial statement audit. Now, we might use some of that information that they obtain in planning our audit, but our objectives are typically different. And so the concept of having auditors that are looking at your policies and procedures and auditing throughout the organization is really something that we recommend and advise, in addition to a financial statement audit, because there is different purposes. They both have, they're both good to have. And I think when they work together, it really provides a lot of, assurances for the city. So.
But the idea being for me that if we had a policy change that booked something in a different way, it would affect or it would be important to interface that with how the financial audit is proceeding. If something got moved from, like we just were talking about with the pension obligation, that it's important if there's a policy change that alters the way that something is booked or it's moved into a different fund, that it's, or how it's being treated. A change in ISF funds alters those numbers, that it's interfaced with what the financial auditor is doing.
Absolutely, and that's where there would be some overlap. If in instances where there were items that related to financial reporting, there would absolutely be some overlap. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional thoughts? Jennifer, any questions or comments from you?
Just one clarification. Eugene, did you mean Troy from Maximus regarding our internal service fund allocations?
Yeah, that was it. Thanks.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Your memory's better than mine.
Yeah. So they did not do, so they're starting work for when we normally do it annually, which will be January. And just to echo what Brian said, that would definitely affect how we're doing, how the financial statements are, because those allocations would possibly be changed. They wouldn't directly, I don't think, work with LSL, because we would be kind of the intermediary and have that all done by the time LSL came in. Does that answer your question?
It does. Yeah, I think it puts a pin on what I was talking about, where some things might get categorized or changed, and then that would, through that process we just talked about, affect what LSL is reviewing. So, yeah. Okay, thank you. That's great.
Okay, if there are no additional comments, then do we have a motion to, as the commission, to accept the financial reports as we have seen them tonight?
First, there's no comments or e-comments.
Okay, good.
I'll move to accept and file item J3.
I'll second Commissioner Conroy.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Commissioner Conroy.
Aye.
Commissioner Jess.
Aye.
Commissioner Marin.
Aye.
Commissioner Samples.
Aye.
Commissioner Solomon.
Aye.
And Chairman votes as well. Okay, I think we're at the end. Member items and referrals to staff. Let's go through the commissioners and see if do you have anything to recommend to staff? Commissioner Conroy.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Jest.
I don't have anything.
Commissioner Marin.
Nothing for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Samples.
Nothing here. Just have a great and safe holiday. Thank you, everyone.
Commissioner Solomon.
I have a question, not necessarily a referral, for our finance director, Jennifer. I'll know that the city council has asked about, and we've talked about here, are they asking for the finance department to do more line item budgeting for our budget coming up, not mid-year, but our budget that would come up for next fiscal? And or have they asked the finance department to do any zero-based budgeting exercise with the 22-23 budget cycle?
So the most recent adopted budget, we did add line item detail, and that is because my understanding is council had asked for that in the past, similar to what Manhattan Beach did, and luckily they published it, and I mirrored that exactly. So that is published for our adopted 22 budget. My understanding is I haven't heard anything requested in addition to that. Also, I haven't heard anything additional about the zero-based budgeting. Primarily, I think because there's so many rules with government and our MOUs, and not to get into that, but I know that would be, we might have to hire a whole new department to work on that.
Okay. The third rail of finance, MOUs. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you to everybody. Happy holidays. Enjoy it. VJ, nice to meet you via Zoom.
Nice meeting you, Eugene.
I wanted to say, or Commissioner Woodham, did you have any referrals to staff? Just before you adjourn, I had something to say.
I have none. Thanks.
Oh, okay, wonderful. No, I just wanted to formally welcome our newest commissioner, Commissioner Jest. Am I saying your name correctly? Is it Jest?
It's Jeste.
Jeste, thank you.
Jeste.
And then as a kind of a time-honored tradition, if you wouldn't mind just telling us briefly a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I worked, I'm a mechanical engineer, but I also did an MBA in marketing. And I worked for large corporations in management capacities for over 30 years. I was head of marketing, engineering, international business, and customer service. So being a part of a large organization, but working for small divisions, I was very heavily involved with the budget process and also strategic planning. So I'm quite familiar with the setup. But I also worked for a nonprofit organization back in Indiana before I retired and came over to Redondo Beach. So I'm still trying to understand how the city budget is formatted. And I think I'm very interested in the zero-based budget because that's something a lot of companies have adopted. And there are other opportunities for kind of focusing on where we can reduce the operating costs and also look for some opportunities for generating some revenues. So I will be talking to the city manager to learn more about what's going on, because I have participated very actively and very heavily involved in the Lean Six Sigma procedures. So that's something I'm very familiar with. I've had tremendous success in implementing these in a non-manufacturing business environment. And the best example of that is the city of Fort Wayne in Indiana, which had gone through this, and they achieved cost reductions of close to $2 million by implementing some of the Lean Six Sigma methodology. And I'll be very happy to share my experience and expertise on that with the city administrators. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you to learn more about the city finances and city budgets and contribute any way I can. Yes, thank you.
When did you move to Redondo Beach? How long have you been here?
Well, I bought the house in 1991. I was here for about 4 years, and then my job took me to Illinois and Indiana. So I retired in 2011 and came here. So it'll be about 10 years.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, second, the idea of welcoming you to the commission will be good working with you. Okay, I think that's it. They'll hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.